Welcome back to The Nation. A TV3 poll shows David Cunliffe leading among the general public for Labour's leadership. Shane Jones is in second place and Grant Robertson in third. In just over a week, of course, we will know who will lead the Labour Party into the 2014 election. All three contenders have been on the hustings all week, with more Meet the Candidate gatherings planned in the South Island in the week ahead. Certainly all three appear to have the smarts to stand up to Prime Minister John Key. Although, as we've just seen with David Shearer, sheer intellect might not be enough. Torben Akel did some digging into each candidate's background and asked, how does each of them stand up in the areas where Shearer fell down?
It's been said David Shearer was too nice to lead Labour, and perhaps that's why these three have been keen to show us their dark side.
According to the media, Shane Jones has support in our caucus with one digit.
All anger's directed towards the real enemy, though.
We can take down John Key, but we have to build up a nation.
And if they are talking in code about disliking each other, as John Key predicted, this was the most obvious example.
And you have three horses up here. Here's the stallion. He's making it up to the geldings. And this fella, he's been doing the heavy lifting in the leader's stable. That makes him the Clydesdale.
From here too, it's hard to tell which is the nicest guy, and thus possibly a bad pick for a party some say has lost its spine.
You've got to have a backbone and you've got to be able to go head-to-head with John Key.
Winston Peters and Russell Norman have been showing them how to do it. How embarrassing is that for a party? They just haven't been able to do it, not under Gough and not under Shearer.
So which of these three is most capable of taking Key on, or more importantly perceived by voters to be so?
David Cunliffe.
David Cunliffe.
David
Cunliffe.
I'm backing David Cunliffe.
David Cunliffe.
I think I'll be backing the Māori man. I think Shane's got potential.
We know, though, that Robertson can take the PM to task. His best hit in recent months being the revelation that a young Key used to play with the now head of the GCSB.
I can't recall particular occasions. I'm sure I may well have done so.
Of the three, though, it's Cunliffe with the reputation for being the most aggressive in the House.
And why don't you tell the public what it is you really plan to do? Because it can't possibly be this, because this is a joke.
Our trawling through Hansard found in the last two parliaments he's had to withdraw and apologise 7 times, compared to Jones's 3 and Robertson's 2. What's more, only Cunliffe's ever been expelled from the chamber. Peter Dunn recalls he even earned a place on Dunn's worst behaved MPs list in his first year in Parliament.
For a first-year MP to do that's quite a spectacular achievement. He was aggressive, quite supercilious, and quite superior in those days. Some may say that those traits are still there today. Others may have a different view, but certainly at that time marked himself out as someone who was a little bit different from the normal first-term MP.
What I'm saying is that right now that we have been...
Aggression aside, Shearer was criticised for not being a fluent or inspirational speaker. Dunn thinks all three of the candidates are stronger orators than Shearer, and Key too.
I think in terms of on his day, on his pitch, it's Shane Jones by a country mile. He has huge skills in that respect. But the energy levels or the enthusiasm or whatever isn't always there. Of the other two, I think Robertson is a good speaker. He's not a witty speaker, but he's not a flat speaker. I think Cunliffe is somewhat theatrical, as we saw even just from his announcement the other day. I think he fancies himself as a Kennedy.
Indeed, Cunliffe once worked on Ted Kennedy's Senate election campaign and claims a family link to Richard Seddon, one of our greatest premiers.
They need us to win, and they need us to win now.
His father was a left-leaning Anglican minister in conservative rural Timaru, and at school he excelled. A student councillor at 14 and a debater whose team won the national championships in 1979. He even played Jesus in a school play. Teachers and classmates we spoke to about the young Cunliffe told us he was highly intelligent, a hard worker and very confident then too. A trait which then as now didn't sit well with some of his peers. He was head boy for half a year before winning a scholarship overseas, then studied politics at Otago, graduating 3 years before Grant Robertson got there in 1990. Robertson was another head boy at his school and studied politics too, and was also elected president of Otago's Students' Association in 1993.
There's quite a crisis, in fact, in Dunedin with a shortage of student accommodation. And if this happened, good, reasonably priced accommodation would go out the window for a lot of students.
Those at Otago then, like me, might remember him as the affable and sincere student president who was somewhat older than his years, who led protest marches, thousands of students strong, against the rise of tertiary fees. In that sense too, he can be seen as an early leader of Generation X.
What they are doing is selling a whole generation of students down the river.
That is, the kids of the baby boomers, now in their 30s and 40s, who struggled with student debt and then skyrocketing house prices. It's no coincidence either that student loans went interest-free when Robertson worked at the top of the beehive. As Helen Clark's Deputy Chief of Staff, he designed the policy and drove it through, and in doing so helped Labor avoid defeat in 2005. It's worth noting, though, that of our current MPs, about a third are of Robertson's generation, while 2/3 are baby boomers, including Cunliffe, Jones and Shearer. Of course, such middle-class notions are of limited concern to union members like these, whose primary challenge isn't student debt or house prices, but putting food on their tables.
50% of New Zealanders said they worry every week whether they're going to be able to pay their bills or not. 50%.
We do not have a problem in this country with being overpaid.
Coincidentally or not, the unions have held this rally and 2 others in the midst of the Labor leadership race. Called 4 weeks before Shearer resigned, they're a response to the latest employment law reforms and a chance for the unions to make some noise.
So we're putting employers on notice. We will negotiate with you in good faith. But if you attack our collective agreements, we will attack back. Am I right? Yeah. Am I right? Union! Union! Right.
Indeed, their newfound power lies in the role they'll play in the Labor leadership contest. The 6 unions affiliated with the party command 20% of the overall vote. And within that, the Engineering, Printing and Manufacturing Union has around 8%, and the Service and Food Workers Union another 5%. All of the latter's members will have an individual vote.
They're just really excited to be part of the democracy and, you know, to have that opportunity to get out there and vote.
However, only the EPMU's elected delegates can cast a ballot.
We know that we are under the scrutiny of the candidates, of our members and of the New Zealand public.
Neither of those union leaders would endorse a particular Labor candidate, but the union members at this meeting weren't so coy.
Shane Jones.
I'd probably say David Cunliffe.
Shane Jones.
David Clifford.
David.
Because he's young and he's really, you know, the standard you watch, you know, when you see him, he's really, you know, he's working for us.
A world-class New Zealand...
Yes, where Shearer was seen as being in the right wing of Labour's caucus, Cunliffe's been touted as being in the left. Back in 1999, though, he entered Parliament stage right. Then media reports highlighted his business credentials, and one even tagged him as a prominent right-winger. At the start too, he chaired Parliament's Commerce Select Committee and was tasked with schmoozing CEOs nervous about the Employment Relations Bill.
So it is an extraordinary road onto Damascus that he's moved from, you know, a supporter of the Rogernomics faction to now, you know, who holding the left banner. Some people call it opportunism. Some might just say, well, he's had a change of view.
Red rose is the international symbol of socialism. Yeah.
David Cunliffe is on the right of the Labor Party, always has been, is now trying to position himself as Mr. Super Left. I think that he will be found out eventually, and the Labor Party is better than any at turning on those who they feel have betrayed it.
Dunn claims only Robertson has genuine left-wing credentials, which is ironic, given these union members told 3 News they didn't like him because he's gay.
I don't like gay people. I don't like him.
No, I don't want gay, I don't like to see him as the Prime Minister.
You know we are Christian.
Being gay?
Yeah.
Oh, it's give a bad example for all of us.
Conversely, Jones is on Labour's right, but appeals because he's brown. Whether the women at the top of the party could accept him as leader is another matter. And not just because he watched porn at the taxpayers' expense, says Greens co-leader Metiria Ture.
Shane has made a number of comments that I think that many women, myself included, have found difficult to stomach. And this is just this is him. He's been criticised for these comments in the past by women, and this is something that Labor people will take into account, no doubt.
Yes, Kia ora, welcome back to the program. You're more than welcome to join us. We'll take your calls.
Tommy Heady thinks it'll stop Jones becoming leader, but doubts that was his primary intent anyway.
He now raises himself into the top 5 of the party because of this leadership. So where he could have been in trouble on the moderation committee, dropped down the list, he is now a player. So by standing as leader, he has re-established himself, and that's a very clever move on his part.
He believes Cunliffe will win the race in the end, while both Dunn and McCartin predict Robertson by a nose.
The people who matter in the party see Cunliffe as a risk.
Ture, meanwhile, wouldn't be drawn on who she'd rather work with in a coalition. So I put it to her this way.
Who would you rather spend a year with on a desert island?
Shane would be highly entertaining. Grant, I think, would be very helpful and would actually do some work. David, I don't know. It's a hard decision. Can I just take my husband?
Of course, a year on a desert island's not a bad analogy for the next year in opposition. A band of political castaways who must survive on meagre resources while planning their electoral escape. Power-hungry and prone to cannibalism, with media sharks circling all the while.
That report from Torben Akel, and the story was edited by Hitendra Patel.